이스라엘 선교 전문 방송 브래드TV에서 진행하는 이스라엘 회복 순례 2017년 2월에 또다시 출발합니다. 지난 4년간 매번 봄과 가을에 진행하면서 그동안 많은 경험과 노하우를 축적해오며 이제는 명실상부한 명품 이스라엘 회복 순례로 자리매김을 해온 브래드TV의 이스라엘 회복 순례에 여러분을 초대합니다. 우선 2017년 2월 1일부터 9일까지 진행하는 올리브 코스는 이스라엘을 처음 방문하는 분들을 위한 코스로 예수님이 태어나신 베들레헴과 예수님이 40일 동안 금식 기도하셨던 유대 광야, 예수님의 품속과도 같은 사역지 갈릴리 호수, 그리고 예수님의 거친 숨소리가 배어있는 예루살렘의 감람산 비아 돌로로사, 이런 기본적인 성지도 방문하지만 그것보다도 더 중요한 것은 현재 하나님께서 이스라엘을 통해 어떤 일들을 하고 계신지 확인하는 시간을 가지려고 합니다. 제가 만든 영화 회복의 주인공인 데이빗 오르티즈 목사님 가정 방문과 메시아닉주 교회를 방문하여 이스라엘에서 예수를 믿는다는 것이 얼마나 힘든 일인지 그들에게서 직접 듣고 그들의 손을 잡고 위로하는 시간을 갖는 아주 특별한 시간을 가지려고 합니다. 매일 아침마다 이스라엘에 관한 강의를 진행하고 또 매일매일 그 현장에서도 특별 강의를 진행하면서 뜨거운 감동과 은혜의 시간이 될 것입니다.
제가 가장 꿈꾸던 곳, 한번 꼭 와보고 싶은 곳, 그리고 그런 곳에 와서 너무 감동을 많이 받았고
너무너무 감사했고요. 은혜 많이 받고 정말 이스라엘에 와서 눈물 없이 감동을 채우고 이번에 더 잘 온 것 같아요.
이스라엘을 이미 한번 다녀왔거나 좀 더 색다른 이스라엘에서의 경험을 기대하는 분들을 위해 마련한 무화과 코스는 2월 15일부터 23일까지 진행됩니다. 무화과 코스에서도 역시 기본적인 성지를 방문하기도 하지만 좀 더 이스라엘의 깊숙한 곳을 들여다보기 위해 유대인들이 자주 찾는 재래시장을 방문하여 그들의 삶의 모습을 이해하고 예루살렘과 텔아비브의 24시간 기도타워를 방문하여 뜨겁게 이스라엘을 위해서 기도하는 시간을 가지려고 합니다. 뿐만 아니라 네게브 사막의 베두인 텐트에서 하룻밤을 보내며 모닥불을 피워놓고 메시아닉 목사님의 설교와 메시아닉 찬양 가수의 찬양을 듣고 사막의 별을 올려다보는 아주 감동적인 시간을 가지려고 합니다. 특히 이스라엘 회복 순례가 진행되는 내년 2월은 이스라엘에서 꽃이 만발하는 가장 아름답고 가장 여행하기 좋은 시기라고 할 수 있습니다. 이미 수년간 여러 차례 진행해온 프로그램이라 저희는 이스라엘로 언제 가야 하는지, 그리고 어떻게 무엇을 보고 경험하며 어떤 시간을 보내는 것이 우리에게나 이스라엘에게나 서로 좋은 시간이 될 것인지 잘 알고 있습니다. 이번에도 역시 그 경험과 노하우를 최대한 활용하려고 합니다. 뿐만 아니라 마음은 간절하고 꼭 가고 싶지만 여행 비용 때문에 고민하고 망설이는 분들을 위해서 하나님께서 정말 귀한 분들을 만나게 해 주셨습니다. 저희 브래드TV가 춘천 신협과 업무 협약을 맺어서 여러분의 여행 비용을 1년에서 최장 3년까지 나눠서 아주 적은 비용으로 변제해 나갈 수 있게 되었습니다. 물론 이자도 다른 곳에선 상상할 수 없을 만큼의 적은 금액이죠. 춘천 신협이 이렇게 저희와 업무 협약을 하는 데에는 그만큼 저희 브래드TV를 믿고 신뢰하기 때문입니다. 그러니 이제 여러분은 당장 큰 돈이 없다 하더라도 부담 없이 저희와 함께 이스라엘로 떠날 수 있게 된 것입니다. 여러분, 이제 그만큼 이스라엘은 여러분 앞에 훨씬 더 가깝게 다가왔습니다. 그리고 여러분을 기다리는 이스라엘의 문은 활짝 열려 있습니다. 저는 여러분께 정말 자신 있게 말씀드릴 수 있습니다. 여러분이 이스라엘에 직접 가서 그 땅을 밟아보고 그들을 만나보고 그 현장에서 기도하는 일들은 여러분의 신앙생활에서 가장 소중하고 의미 있는 시간들이 될 것입니다. 그리고 그런 시간이 될 수 있도록 저와 브래드TV는 최선을 다해 준비하겠습니다. 무조건 이스라엘만 가는 것이 중요한 것이 아닙니다. 가서 무엇을 보느냐, 누구를 만나느냐가 중요한 것이죠. 그리고 더 중요한 것은 누구와 함께 가느냐가 중요합니다. 여러분, 저와 함께 이스라엘로 가시죠. 제가 여러분을 하나님께서 약속하신 땅 이스라엘로 안내하겠습니다.
This week on Jerusalem Dateline, U.S. President-elect Donald Trump is scoping out where he might put the U.S. Embassy if he decides to move it to Jerusalem. And Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu developing ties with Muslim nations. Plus, ISIS claims responsibility for murdering dozens of Christians in an Egyptian church bombing. And could there be a safe haven for Christians in the Nineveh Plain? Hello and welcome to this edition of Jerusalem Dateline. I'm Chris Mitchell. President-elect Donald Trump has nominated his choice for U.S. ambassador to Israel. David Friedman's nomination signals to many that Trump really does intend to move the U.S. Embassy to Jerusalem. Even before the nomination, Trump's transition team is reportedly exploring the possibilities of moving the embassy. And we took a look at a few of the places they may be considering and what such a move would mean. During his campaign, Trump pledged to move the U.S. Embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. His campaign manager, Kellyanne Conway, reiterated that pledge and said it's a very big priority for Trump. Some believe one possible location for the U.S. Embassy would be at the current site of the U.S. Citizen Services Office. It's located here in a Jerusalem neighborhood and considered a logical choice for a future embassy, but it's not the only potential site. According to Israel's Channel 2, another choice, the area of the nearby Diplomat Hotel, currently a home for elderly immigrants. The U.S. owns the property, but not the hotel. A third site is this abandoned lot in the busy Talpiot neighborhood, owned by the U.S. Former Israeli Finance Minister Yair Lapid says Trump's pledge to move the U.S. Embassy is an excellent idea.
It's about time. We are sitting now in Israel's capital.
According to opinion polls, Lapid is seen as a top contender for Israeli Prime Minister in the future. In response to a question from CBN News, Lapid told foreign journalists that every embassy should be in Jerusalem.
This is our capital. We waited 2,000 years to come back here, and we expect the world to acknowledge this fact and to recognize Jerusalem as our capital, and therefore we should have here the embassy.
He related a story from President Obama's recent trip to Israel.
I remember not long ago on Shimon Peres's funeral, the White House issued a statement saying the president was in Jerusalem, and then they changed it not to mention Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. And this was in Western Jerusalem. It wasn't even in Eastern Jerusalem. And I think this is preposterous.
No country in the world recognizes Jerusalem as Israel's capital. A State Department official told CBN News, since Israel's founding, administrations of both parties have maintained a consistent policy of recognizing no state as having sovereignty over Jerusalem. We remain committed to this long-standing policy. But in 1995, the U.S. Congress passed the Jerusalem Embassy Act, mandating the move of the U.S. Embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. So far, every president has avoided the move, citing security concerns and signing a special waiver. Moving the embassy wouldn't make everyone happy.
There will be happiness on the Israeli side, there will be unhappiness on the Arab-Palestinian side. There may be riots, there may be violence.
Some say the move must come in the wider context of an Israeli-Palestinian peace agreement. Others believe Jerusalem is Israel's eternal, undivided capital. In the meantime, many say if the move is ever going to happen, Trump is the one to get the job done. Moving the embassy to Jerusalem would be a bold move. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says he believes President-elect Trump will be supportive of Israel. In an interview with the CBS News program 60 Minutes, Netanyahu told Leslie Stahl that he would stand up for Israel no matter who is in the White House.
I know Donald Trump. I know him very well. And I think his attitude, his support for Israel is clear. He feels very warmly about the Jewish state, about the Jewish people, and about Jewish people. There's no question about that.
With Trump, do you think that Israel will not be as at odds with the United States as you have been under the Obama administration?
Yeah, we had differences of opinions with, I had differences of opinion with President Obama, and most well known, of course, is Iran.
Was it personal between the two of you?
No, I don't think so. I think that, suppose we had the greatest of personal chemistry, okay? So what, you think I wouldn't stand up against the Iran deal if I thought, as I did, that it endangers the existence of Israel? Of course I would.
After that 60 Minutes interview, Netanyahu took an unusual trip when he visited the former Soviet republics of Azerbaijan and Kazakhstan. His mission was to advance diplomatic relations and discuss regional issues and security and economic matters. Netanyahu visited Azerbaijan nearly 20 years ago and was the first prime minister of the Jewish state ever to visit Kazakhstan.
What you see today are the leaders of a Muslim state and the leader of a Jewish state shaking hands, working to cooperate to create a better future for the citizens of our country. But I think that this example of Muslim-Jewish cooperation is something that reverberates throughout the world. I said to you as we were walking in here that our relations with our Muslim-Arab neighbors is changing dramatically.
Israel and Kazakhstan signed agreements on research and development, aviation, civil service commissions, and agricultural cooperation. Earlier, he met with the Azerbaijani president, who highlighted the good relations between the Jews and the Azerbaijanis.
For centuries, Jews and Azerbaijanis lived in peace, friendship, and continue to live here in Azerbaijan. And the Jewish community of Azerbaijan is a very active part of our society. They contribute a lot to the development of modern Azerbaijan. And these close relations between our people is a very important factor in our bilateral relations.
The Azerbaijani president revealed that his country has defense contracts with Israel for nearly $5 billion. On a more somber note, Egyptian President El-Sisi declared a 3-day mourning period after one of the worst terror attacks in recent history struck a Christian Coptic church in Cairo, killing dozens and wounding nearly 50. ISIS claimed responsibility for the attack and threatened to continue its war against what it calls apostates. Eyewitnesses said a woman planted a bag filled with more than 25 pounds of explosives inside the church. The explosion ripped through St. Peter's, located next to the main Coptic cathedral. This man said the columns were smoldering, people strewn on the floor and on the walls. Everything was broken. Most of the dead were women and children at a Sunday service. One eyewitness said they were children. What have they done to deserve this? I wish I had died with them instead of seeing these scenes. The Coptic Orthodox Church released a statement on its Facebook page saying in part, "As we are bereaved by this violence and terrorism that attacks worshipers, we pray for these martyrs and for the wounded." The Egyptian church stresses on preserving national unity that keeps all Egyptians on Egypt's blessed land. After the attack, demonstrators gathered. They protested against terrorism and demanded national unity. Coptic Christians make up about 10% of Egyptians, and the bombing demonstrated the danger they face. For example, in 2013, CBN News reported that the Muslim Brotherhood burned a number of churches, Christian businesses, and even an orphanage. President El-Sisi said a religious war is being waged and vowed to hunt down the attackers. The Coptic Pope Tawadros plans to return from a state visit to preside over the funerals of more than 24 Christians. Coming up, a possible safe haven for Christians in the ancient Nineveh plain. Welcome back. The Kurdish military has begun to liberate many Christian villages and towns captured by ISIS. But many Christians are hesitant to return home over fear it could happen again. On my recent trip to northern Iraq, I visited the Ankawa refugee camp and heard about the concerns of Christians there and about a plan to set up a safe haven in the area where the prophet Jonah warned the people. Today, the Christian town of Karakosh is free of ISIS for the first time in more than 2 years. It will require massive rebuilding. And as Sister Diana of the Nineveh Relief Organization told CBN News, it also needs security.
It's number one priority, because if it's not safe, even if everything is provided from the infrastructure, from the facility, from the service, but number one is the security. What's the point of coming back, rebuilding, and then another group will come and force us to leave, and if not forcing us to leave, maybe worse could happen too. So we need something tangible, something that it tells us you're gonna be safe.
That's because ISIS, also known as Daesh, is only the latest group to target these Iraqi Christians.
It's a continuous persecution since 2003. With the emerge of Daesh, this was really shown, was felt deeply. Villages are empty now, probably destroyed. The heritage is gone, the past and all of these good and strong memories is not there anymore.
The numbers back up their fear. Constant attacks have caused the population of Iraqi Christians to drop from 1.5 million in 2003 to less than 300,000 in 2016. This is the Ashti refugee camp in the Ankawa neighborhood just outside of Erbil. It's where thousands of Christians have lived since ISIS forced them to flee more than 2 years ago. Now there's proposals to establish a safe zone for Christians and other ethnic groups in the plains of Nineveh. U.S. Congressman Jeff Fortenberry of Nebraska introduced one proposal, saying in part, the indigenous communities of Iraq's Nineveh Plain region, Assyrian, Chaldean, Syriac Christians, Yazidis, and others, have a right to security. House Resolution 152 would support the Iraqi creation of a safe zone, allow for autonomy, and commit the international community to help maintain the security. They envision a 3-level security system with a local Christian militia, the Iraqi Army or Kurdish military, and an international rapid response unit.
Because without this, the cradle of Christianity will be done. Christian will not be able to live in Middle East, not only in Iraq, in the whole Middle East.
Assyrian Aid Society President Ashur Askria says Christians are not new to the land.
It's important because it's a Christian indigenous land. Iraq and Middle East, we are not visitor here because sometimes people, they think that we are not from this land because now we are already like minorities in this region.
Sister Diana warns her church is in danger of disappearing.
If the Syriac Catholic Church does not come back here, we're going to be spread all over the world. In a few years, there will not be a Syriac Catholic Church in Iraq.
Steve Reich is with the Chaldean Church. For security reasons, we won't show his face. He says discouragement can be a killer.
I think one of the dangers in the West is we look at these people from afar and we say, well, nobody's trying to kill them today. They're living in a tent. They're getting some kind of food, which is all fine if you don't care about whether or not they survive as a community. And keeping them alive in a situation where they've got no hope, they've got no future, what's more cruel? You know, they're dying either way. They're dying inside.
Ithara, a mother of 3 daughters, echoes that feeling and has a message for mothers in the West.
For all the mothers that hear me today, we tell them we need a quiet life. We need a safe life for us and our children.
Bishop Warder agrees with a safe zone, but also says it needs to be personal.
We need also a process of reconciliation among all the components of the Iraqi society and the people of Nineveh Plain, because to be victim, it's one issue, and also to victimize others in retaliation, this will not bring peace and stability.
Whenever you find such opportunity,
In the meantime, Christians go on with their lives. Sister Diana led this graduation ceremony for those learning English as a second language. It's been a tough time, but they said they look to their Savior.
May Jesus not forget us forever. The Jesus with us all the time.
I'm not gonna lie to you, I cried a lot of nights, and praying to Jesus was absolutely, it helped me a lot.
Raish told CBN News what he believes Christians in the West need to know.
Don't forget them. Don't give up on them. They're still here and there's still hope. But there's only hope if the rest of the world's Christians continue to show solidarity with them.
We need your support, we need your prayer, we need your voice, we need raising awareness and keep telling the story.
Up next, how one church is helping refugees right in their hometown. Welcome back to Jerusalem Dateline. While politicians have been debating about the Syrian refugee crisis, the church has often stepped in to provide real solutions. CBN correspondent Abigail Robertson shows us how one congregation in Washington is doing what they believe the Bible is calling them to do, loving their neighbors.
This may look like a regular prayer meeting, but those being prayed over might surprise you. A Muslim family recently resettled from Syria, who left their country when ISIS invaded their hometown and gunned down many of their neighbors. The family buried their 16-year-old son alive for hours during the raid to protect him from being forcibly recruited to the terrorist organization. Members from National Community Church have gathered to listen to the family's story and learn more about why they fled to the United States.
Have you ever met any Syrian refugees before?
No. I don't think so.
Media gives a lot of, these are bad people, watch out for them, all sorts of danger, and just know that it's not true.
Pastor Dave Schmidgall and his wife Kate met the family shortly after they arrived in the U.S. They spoke no English and were placed in the expensive city of Washington, D.C. The resettlement agency covered expenses for only 3 months. The father, Bashir, once an electrician, now feels helpless.
In Syria, he was very strong. He was a provider. He had a sure skill set in a profession. Here, he feels lost. He's working really hard to learn English, but the pressure to get financial security is pretty strong.
Kate and Dave realized 2 major things missing in Bashir's family's resettlement process: friendships and income. They opened up their home to host this event, which solved both those issues and gave the church an opportunity to put a face to the crisis.
What's missing is friendship, it's relationship, it's a meal.
Those attending not only met the family, they learned to make a Syrian dish called labne, a type of cheese. Each person also gave money toward the family's rent.
It was so simple, we're just making cheese and they're just sharing their stories and we're just praying for them, and just to see God's hands and feet in action here tonight was really cool.
But what you see happening here is easier said than done.
Across the nation, 73%, just the general population, avoids or is uncomfortable with conversations with Muslims. It takes a little bit of risk to cut past the rhetoric and the opinions to get involved in areas that are controversial, but there are people behind these topics and these issues.
Lead pastor Mark Batterson found that out after his wife returned from a refugee missions trip.
Her heart started to break for what I believe breaks the heart of God. And when your wife has a heart for something as her husband, you get a heart for it.
Pastor Batterson believes if churches move past the politics, they could change the course of this crisis.
Sometimes we confuse political issues with biblical issues. My hope and prayer would be that the church would recognize this is one of the greatest crises of our generation, and how we respond to it might just define our future as the church.
NCC plans to host more Listen and Learn events with different refugee families in the future. As for Bashir, he started a handyman service with the help of Kate in hopes of one day becoming self-sufficient in America. Reporting from Washington, Abigail Robertson, CBN News.
Coming up, see how one little Syrian girl refugee in Lebanon got a new chance for a brighter future. Welcome back to Jerusalem Dateline. We've seen how a church in Washington is helping one refugee family who immigrated to the U.S. But as we know, there are many more in the Middle East that are also in desperate straits. Here's the story of how Christians helped one little girl get just what she needed.
Daily life for Syrian refugees in Lebanon is rough enough, but it's especially difficult for Rahaf, who struggles just to see.
Sometimes she would trip and fall just trying to walk. Kids in the camp teased Rahaf and called her the cross-eyed girl. I tried to comfort her, but I knew she was suffering and there was nothing I could do.
Rahaf's mother told me how their family was forced to run from their home in Syria because of the civil war. Dodging bombs and sniper bullets, they came to Lebanon hoping to start a new life. But the Lebanese government won't let Syrian refugees get jobs.
We're not allowed to work, but we still have to pay rent to keep our tent in this camp. We're in so much debt and we can't even afford food, much less the surgery needed to fix Rahaf's eyes.
When Heart for Lebanon, which is supported by CBN, found out about Rahaf's problems, together we got her the corrective eye surgery she needed. Now Rahaf is able to study at the Heart for Lebanon Hope Center, a school for Syrian refugee children. Here, with the support of CBN, they're learning math, Arabic, and English.
I'm really happy now because I can see to read and write. I can even play outside with my friends without falling down.
Rahaf has become a different person since the operation. You have given her a future. She smiles a lot now, and that brings joy to our whole family.
The children at the center also get to watch Superbook in Arabic and learn about Jesus Christ.
I love Jesus because he forgave us of our sins. He has been with me and protected me during the war and all the bad times.
CBN and Heart for Lebanon give food to Rahaf's family and thousands of others in the refugee camps.
You are the only ones that have truly cared for us and the other refugees. The kids are so happy when you come, and we always talk about how amazing the food is while we prepare it. We sit down to a meal and we say, God, please bless these people as they are blessing us.
I want to thank Heart for Lebanon and CBN from all my heart.
Well, that's one of the happiest stories in the Middle East today. That's all for this edition. Thanks for joining us, and remember to pray for the peace of Jerusalem and for our persecuted brothers and sisters and refugees in need. Remember, you can follow us on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. I'm Chris Mitchell. We'll see you next time on Jerusalem Dateline.